question 3 of the 2023 General Maths exam for SACE Stage 2 here in South Australia. You can see it's a financial modelling question. We've got the management team of a sporting club considers 2 options, so options A and options B, for borrowing $95,000 to conduct an immediate upgrade to the change rooms. So option A is an interest-only loan from a credit union for 8 years with interest charged at a flat rate, so simple interest of 6.8% per year. But along with that, the option also requires the club to make quarterly deposits into a sinking fund for 8 years, and the sinking fund earns interest at 2.95% per annum, compounded quarterly. So there's 2 parts here, basically. We've got the sinking fund and the interest-only loan that they're taking out. Remember, the sinking fund's kind of like a savings account until they save up that $95,000 to pay off the loan completely. Part A of the question asks us to calculate the yearly interest payment for the interest-only loan. So just the first 2 dot points there for 8 years at 6.8% of $95,000, but it's saying the yearly interest. So we're just working out the simple interest for 1 year, or we're just working out 6.8% of $95,000, and that's how much interest they'll have to pay each year for 8 years. Mathematically, that is 0.068 times by 95,000, which is a simple calculation you can do on the run function or on your scientific calculator, which will give you, I won't do it, but it'll give you $6,460. So that's how much interest they have to pay per year for 8 years for that simple interest loan. It then says to calculate, in part B, the quarterly payments that the club must make into the sinking fund. So this is where we're going to use the financial section of our graphics calculator, head into compound interest, so F2, and we're going to put in these values. So N, the number of periods that the sinking fund is open for, is 8 years, and they are making payments quarterly, so 8 times 4, or 32. The interest rate is, from the original question here, 2.95%. So let's go ahead and put that in. The present value, we're assuming that the club has 0 money in the sinking fund to begin with. PMTs are already being asked to work out, so how much they have to pay per quarter. The future value of this sinking fund, they want to get up to $95,000, like we said, so that they can pay off that loan completely. Payments per year are 4 because they're paying quarterly, and compound periods per year is also 4 because the interest is being compounded quarterly. So we'll go ahead and put that into our graphics calculator to calculate PMT. So it's 8 times 4 for N. Interest rate is 2.95%. And then we toggle down to the future value, that's $95,000. And PY and CY will both be 4. Okay, so ask the calculator to calculate PMT, which works out to be $2,643. And we're going to round that up. We always round up with payments, so 0.9. Okay, so we make sure that we definitely have $95,000 in the account after the 8 years. It then says, show the total cost for option A for the club is approximately $136,000. So the club is paying $6,460 every year in interest for 8 years, and they are paying into the sinking fund $2,643.09 every quarter for 8 years. So they're making, so if we go 6,460 times 8, okay, the amount of simple interest they pay every year for 8 years, plus they're making the payment of $2,643.09 32 times, or 8 times 4. Okay, so that will give us an answer that's pretty close to $136,000. So let's head back into the run function and pop that one in. So it works out to be 6,460 times 8. Plus, we're going to add the $2,643.09 times 8 times 4. Okay, which gives us a total of $136,258.88. So that's the total cost to the club for option A. The last part of this question says to state why the total cost stated in part CI, so this amount here, is less than the amount that will be repaid to the credit union. So the club only has to pay $136,258.88 to borrow that $95,000 from the credit union, but the credit union is actually going, so this is important to understand, the credit union is going to get $95,000 once there is $95,000 in that sinking fund, plus the 8 lots of simple interest of 6,460. So if I actually did work that out just quickly, so 95,000 plus the 8 times 6,460, you'll see that that amount is higher than the amount we worked out in CI. And the difference between this amount here, $146,680, which the credit union receives, and this amount here, which is the total cost for the sports club, is the interest that they earn, or the interest that the sporting club earns in that sinking fund. Okay, so this amount, you don't actually have to work this amount out. It's just asking why, or state why there is a difference and why that is less. And the reason is because of the interest earned in the sinking fund. Okay, remember the sinking fund's kind of like a savings account until it gets to $95,000, and then that money goes into paying off the loan. Okay, so that's why there is a difference between those two values. Moving on to look at option B. So option B is a reducing balance loan from a bank for 8 years. Interest is charged at 5.75% per annum, which is compounded monthly, and a monthly service charge of $25 applies. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out the monthly repayments they have to make to pay off that $95,000. Okay, so again, we're going to head into the financial section here to work out how much they have to pay per month. And the reason we're doing it is because part D, I actually asked us to calculate the comparison rate, not the effective rate, the comparison rate. Remember, comparison rate means or takes into consideration any fees and charges. So basically we need to add this charge of 25 to that monthly repayment, but first we need to work out that monthly repayment. So N is going to be equal to, for this case, 8 times 12, because it's 8 years every month. Interest rate for this account is 5.75%, or for this loan. The present value, what they're starting with, is the positive $95,000. Remember, because it's an incoming, it's a positive $95,000. PMT is what we're actually being asked to work out to begin with. Future value, we want to get that down to 0, pay off the loan completely, with payments per year and compound periods per year, both in this case being 12, because it is compounded monthly. And with that monthly service charge, we want to work out how much they have to pay per month as well. Okay, so with all that, let's pop it in. So 8 times 12 for N. The interest rate is 5.75%. The present value is 95,000. Let's reset that to 0, the PMT. The future value would be 0. PY and CY will both be 12. Based on that, a monthly payment of $1,236.91 is required. Now, on top of that monthly repayment, there's also the $25 fee that applies. So we're going to add $25 to that monthly payment. So we're going to go back here now and basically increase this amount by $25, essentially. Okay, so $1,236.91 plus $25 is $1,261.91. But remember, because this is an outgoing, okay, we're paying it into the loan every month. This should be a negative amount, so put in the minus there. Okay, that then will tell us the interest rate, or the comparison rate, if I ask it to by pressing F2. So the comparison rate here is actually 6.29%. Okay, so interest rate is 6.29%, or the comparison rate is 6.29%. The next part here says to find the total, or calculate the total cost for option B for the club. So here they are paying that $1,261.91. So it's the monthly repayment we calculated plus the service fee, and they are paying that every year, so 8 years, every month. Okay, so that'll tell us how much the total cost will be for the loan in option B. So let's head back into the run function there and do $1,261.91 times by 8 times by 12, which gives us a total cost here of the loan of $121,143.36, which you can see is cheaper than option A. Okay, option A worked out to over $136,000 cost to the club. So it says then, moving on to the next question, suggest one reason why the club might not select the cheaper option when borrowing the $95,000. This is a tricky question. So why might they choose option A over option B, even though option B is cheaper? Some of the solutions that have come from Massa and SACE include there might be a better relationship between the sporting club and the credit union. For example, the credit union may be a sponsor of the club, so they want to use the credit union rather than the bank. One though that I like, and there are multiple answers here that you can pop in. One option that probably that I like the best out of the ones they provided was that the quarterly payments work better for the sports club, okay, as opposed to the monthly repayment. So option A, remember, was quarterly payments. Perhaps that works better for the sporting club. So you could say that the quarterly payments work better for the sports club. Now, another option that was provided by Massa was about flexibility. So there may be more flexibility with option A in terms of how frequent they make those payments and how much they can repay and how soon they can repay it and things like that. Again, there's not a lot of detail about those, conditions of the loan, but you really have to, I guess, understand the idea that potentially option A could provide those benefits, be a bit more flexible. Okay, the last part of this question talks about inflation. So inflation over this 8-year period is predicted to average 4.5% per annum. Calculate the value of $95,000 index for inflation in 8 years' time. So here we are just doing $95,000 and we are increasing it by 4.5%, so times by 1.045. And then we're raising that to the power of 8 because we're doing that, obviously, compounding that inflation rate for 8 years. So another simple calculation in our run function, 95,000 times by 1.045, all to the power of 8, works out to be $135,000.99 and 56 cents. So the indexed value of $95,000 based on inflation of 4.5% over 8 years is $135,099 and 56 cents. Last question says to state one limitation of waiting for 8 years to upgrade the change rooms rather than doing the upgrade immediately. So why would the sports club look to take out a loan and get the change rooms fixed now rather than waiting 8 years and trying to save that money? Again, there's a few options here. One of those provided by SACE was that the club may lose potential members to rival clubs if the change rooms or facilities aren't upgraded. So one thing that you might look for is if you're looking to join a club is how good are their facilities. So you don't want to lose members, so that could be one option. Another option is, and I think this is the most common one that appeared in both Massa and SACE, was the increase in the price of building materials, etc. So increase in price of upgrade in 8 years' time. So they might think, well, in 8 years' time, it's going to be a lot more expensive, so we'll get it done now at $95,000. Because even though it might cost $95,000 now, in 8 years' time, it might almost be double that to upgrade the facilities. One other one that was mentioned by Massa was that those potentially, and we don't know, but potentially those change rooms or facilities are currently unusable. So it's unreasonable to wait 8 years, or they may be unusable in 8 years' time. So it needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. Anyway, that's question 3 from the 2023 General Maths exam. Hopefully that helps.